Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. Unfortunately, in this edition, we'll be talking about another Tottenham Hotspur defeat. That is now just one win in 10 games, our 12th defeat of the Premier League season. At half-time, the Spurs fans were singing to the team, "You're not fit to wear the shirt." And Ange Postecoglou has just confirmed that Dominic Solanke will be out for a number of weeks. Now, we're live on YouTube, we're live on X, Facebook and Twitch, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, and let us know what you think of today's performance and result. Everton 3, Tottenham Hotspur 2. I think that this episode is going to be a difficult one to record, but I'm absolutely grateful for my three guests turning up to talk about this match. Back with me is actor Ricky Norwood. Ricky, we will get into the football in a second, but how are you?
Oh, mate. Yeah, I mean, look, always an honor and a pleasure to be on with you, beautiful gentlemen. You know, it's just, I mean, I don't even know what to say, man. I'm like, I've got no words today, and I'm sure I'll rant still for 15 minutes with no words, but I've got no words today, man. It just keeps getting worse. Do you know what I mean? We are cursed. I mean, we are really cursed. And I don't know where we go from here, bro.
Back with us also is channel regular Craig Dearman. Craig, how are you?
Probably feeling the same as everybody else, just deflated, and I don't quite know where we go from here, Chris. And I know you've got a long drive home, so that probably makes it doubly worse. So, yeah, it's not a good place to be at the moment, is it?
Back with us also, and it's been a long while, is Luke David from the Park Lane podcast. Luke, great to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, really, really pleased to be on. It's just unfortunate, you know, in the situation that Spurs are in, that I have to come back on, you know, off the back of, well, 2 defeats this week. You know, as you say, a lot of defeats in the Premier League. And look, there's a lot we need to discuss. You know, whether we get through everything, who knows? But no, it's an absolute pleasure to be on. Thanks.
I'm going to start the show, actually, today by just giving my thoughts very quickly. I thought that was a terrible performance by Tottenham Hotspur, particularly in that first half. And as I mentioned, the Spurs fans sang a couple of times, "You're not fit to wear the shirt," which is terrible to be singing to your own football club. But being 3-0 down at half-time at Goodison Park against Everton is simply unacceptable. I feel like the players were awful in that first half. They need to certainly step up. I feel like Ange Postecoglou needs to take responsibility as well for sometimes how he sets the team up and how we play. I would be very surprised if Ange Postecoglou is our manager by the time we play Hoffenheim on Thursday. Whether that's right or wrong, I'll be surprised. And I feel like the Tottenham Hotspur board, I saw Daniel Levy, Donna Cullen and Scott Munn all enter Goodison Park. They all got off the Spurs team bus before the game. They all went into Goodison Park, and I feel like they need to step up as well. If you're going to help the manager, give the players that the manager needs. If you're not and you're going to make a decision, you need to back a manager, you know, in the ways that us fans are going to be happy with, and we are going to climb up that Premier League table, because at the moment it is not good reading. Spurs remain 15th in the Premier League table, 24 points from 22 games with a goal difference of +10. We're 8 points away from the relegation zone. Everton have moved up to 16th. They have 20 points from 21 matches, and we are now looking over our shoulders of the likes of Everton, Wolves and Ipswich. As I say, it is not good enough. Everton 3, Tottenham Hotspur 2. Dominic Calvert-Lewin put Everton 1-0 up after 13 minutes. Ndiaye put them 2-0 up after 30 minutes. Archie Gray own goal in stoppage time at the end of the first half. 3-0 at half-time. Dejan Kulusevski grabbed one back for Spurs in the 77th minute, and Richarlison scoring for Tottenham in the 92nd minute. Now, the match facts and stats here. Everton, 35.9% of the ball to Tottenham's 64.1%. XG, Everton, 2.03 to Tottenham's 1.11. Shots, Everton had 12 to Tottenham's 11. Shots on target, Everton 6 to Tottenham 6. Total touches inside the box, Everton 27 to Tottenham's 23. Goalkeeper saves, Pickford 3, Kinski 4. Fouls, 14 apiece. Corners, Everton 3, Tottenham Hotspur 8. Now, let's hear from Ange Postecoglou before we go any further.
Ange, they kept going for you, but another tough day.
Yeah, it was a tough day. Yeah, look, obviously first half, it wasn't great, and look, that's predominantly down to me. I had to make some changes in the team, and obviously, we struggled to really cope with kind of the structure we'd started with, and Everton sort of capitalised on that, and it kind of gave us a mountain to climb in the second half. But again, credit to the players. They don't give in. They don't sort of very easy at half time, 3-0 down, to kind of go into self-preservation mode and lose discipline. But they kept fighting to the end, but ultimately came up short.
Look, obviously, no excuses. You never make excuses. But between playing Arsenal and coming here, you've lost 3 more players. There's 11 out today, Ange. What does it do to you in terms of prepping for a game like this? Yeah,
it's not easy, and obviously we lost Dom sort of late in training yesterday, which is obviously a key part of what we do. So we had to sort of adjust things again, and obviously we've got guys like Richie and Ben who are just coming back from long absences, Mikey, so we've got to be careful about how much we expose them. So, we literally had 11 fit players today, so it makes it a challenge, but it's a situation we're in. We'll eventually get out of it at some point, but right at the moment, the responsibility lies with me to steer us out of this.
How do you keep the morale going? I'm including yourself in this, Ange.
Yeah, look, it's the morale is easy because of the determination, particularly in me, and you see it in the players that we know we're in a real tough sort of situation right now, and but we all believe we'll get through it, and once we do get through it, that we get some of our players back, that we'll get more consistency in our performances in all competitions. But you can't afford to drop your head. You can't afford to. Because we have a responsibility, and that responsibility lies with me right now, to get this club out of the situation we're in.
Just the last one. Obviously, Dom, it's a knee problem, isn't it? Any updates on that at all?
No, look, it was just one of those things. It wasn't like it was even a challenge. It was just him trying to shoot, twisted his knee. So it's just one of those things, unfortunately, we're going through at the moment. We'll get the full extent of it. We're kind of hoping it's not serious, but it'll certainly keep him out for a few.
Ricky, let's come to you. Of course, this is going to be a hard podcast to record. There are a lot of people wanting to give their thoughts and comments at the moment, and my phone has literally gone mad. The amount of people that normally come on this podcast, a lot of them have messaged me and said, can I come on to talk? Of course, you are my guest today, so it's over to you guys to give me your thoughts today on the game. Ricky, let's start with you. What do you make of it? Because at half-time, 3-0, I think the fan base, not only inside the stadium, but all the guys at home were absolutely stunned. Spurs 3-0 down at half-time.
Fundamentally, Chris, today was a must-win game. We know that. Because of previous results, because, we haven't been able to get the rewards that we deserve, and we're in a dire straight situation. Not much has changed. I've been on every 3 days with you, majority of the time. And not much has changed in these last 2.5 months. In fact, they get worse. Not that Timo Werner is really been one to contribute or to make a difference, but that was another body down. Last minute in training yesterday, Dom Solanke, who has worked his socks off and has been a major part of this kind of, new look Tottenham, and his hold up play and his technical play and his passing and stuff like that is been pivotal to the way that we play. We've run him into the ground as well. And last minute at training, you've then got to shift everything. So we go to a back three. Davies has just come back. We go to a back three and we get pulled apart. And I think psychologically and physically, like once that first goal went in, I think the players felt the same way that we did. Oh no, here we go again. And not only did we lose Dom, but during the game, we lost our only one fit defender who had to come off. We don't know what's going to happen there. It just goes from really bad to worse. But the blame and the eyes really should be on that board, because if we was in a desperate situation come the 31st of December, well, we are in a dire straight situation right now. If other clubs were going to charge us plus 5 mil for a player, well, now they're going to charge us plus 10 mil, etc. Because now we're in a shoddy state, and the board has not helped us whatsoever. Bringing in Kinski, I thought was a really good move, and I thought it was I was really hoping against history and against my better knowledge that this was a sign of intent from the board to go, you know what, we're going to help this manager, we're going to help this squad. They need it right now. Let's go and help them. We have not been able to rotate. We have not been able to give any rest. We've had to run the players that we've got into the ground. It's unprecedented that we've got a full first 11 out. We've had 4 keepers this year, and that board really needed to step up, and they really needed to give us a hand in the outfield. We know this. We know we went into the season short. And look at us right now. And how many days are we into this January transfer window? And we've got one player in who's a goalkeeper. Great goalkeeper. I think he'll do tremendous. But we needed more. So much more. It's so tough. It is so tough because I think that, especially that first half, bro, I think they went into their shell and they went into the oh no mode. And they couldn't pull it out. And we needed intensity. There was no intensity. We needed intensity in that second half. Do you know what I mean? We needed an intensity response. But it just looks like they're running on empty and less than empty. Absolutely less than empty. So when you put in all your effort to try and do something and then you're 1-0 down, then you're 2-0 down, it's like I'm trying to go on a psychological flex where it's like your body and your brain is just like, can anything else go wrong for us? This club is cursed. You know what I mean? It's so disappointing. That performance, there's nothing I can say about that performance in the first half. There's no real positives that I can pull out. But you can see that they're trying. You can see that but they've got nothing left. It's like a punch. It's like a boxer that's punched 100 punches and his arms are dead now. So you can just kind of you could push him over. You don't even have to knock him out. This is where we are right now, and the board that turned up to Tamworth, that turned up today. Do you know what I mean? Like, sort yourselves out. Sort yourselves out. I've tried to back you and I've tried to look at the good things that they've brought to the club, but they do so many bad things. They do so many things that just kick us in the gut, time and time again. And right now we're in a desperate situation. It's appalling that they let this manager go to war with a pencil and no pencil sharpener. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're waiting for. However much they think they're going to save by waiting on a player, we're going to lose in positions in the league, or we're going to lose either which way. Like ticket prices next year. Do you know what I mean? You're going to lose because we're going to have 1 game a week next year again. Do you know what I mean? And then what? So sort your lives out, man. Sort your lives out. I can't believe that they've just let them get to this point where every single fan is despondent. Every single fan is arguing against each other. I've had my dad, do you know what I mean? Like, voice note to me. And when he speaks in a certain tone, I know he's gone. Do you know what I mean? And he's a proper East London boy. So when he's gone, he's gone. And I'm just sitting there and I'm going, what can I say now? Nothing's changed. It's got worse, injury-wise, personnel-wise. We know the problems. We know the areas that we're short. We know what we need to fix, yet the guys that are in charge are not doing it. What can I come on and say to you guys at home and you guys sitting there on this pod right now, and to my dad? I had Anthony Costa, bless him. Do you know what I mean? I've had to avoid a ton of these calls over the weeks, but I've had Anthony Costa text me all day yesterday about how Everton were going to win and Calvin Lewin was going to score. As soon as he scores straight away, I get a text straight away. I'm like, sometimes it's like, I just don't know where we're at, man. Like, we're split as a fan base, like the energy is all over the place. I just think that we need to really come together for one thing. And one thing that me and Costa agreed on was, the board and funding and recruitment and what we need and how we need it right now. We know how short we've been. We know it. You know, yet we're here now. What is it? 19 days in? I don't even know what the date is anymore. But
Yeah.
like, do you know what I mean? 19 days in, and we got a goalkeeper. I mean, come on, look at that defense, man. Who has that? Who has their first two centre backs plus their backup centre backs plus two goalkeepers? Like, what is going on? Come on, we've had the worst luck going. We've got the worst juju, the worst hex, the worst curse. I don't know who's doing what. But wow, can Ange please go and urinate by the corner flags or something? Do something, because
Ricky,
I've never seen it before.
Ricky, I've got to ask this because Bournemouth had a similar amount of injuries to Tottenham. They went away to Newcastle yesterday. They got a 4-1 win. A lot of people are talking about the Bournemouth manager at the moment. I've got to ask this because people are saying it in the comments. There's a lot of it. Are you Ange in? Are you Ange out? Do you think that this might be his last game as Tottenham boss?
I'm going to stay consistent with the same argument that I've had every single 3 days. Nothing's changed, it's got worse. So am I with the manager? Personally, yes, I am. Because what I've seen is the detriment of this squad. And how can you judge, really, when, like, ever since last December, we had the same scenarios and the problems wasn't fixed in the summer. And it's got to January again, and the problems haven't been fixed. So we are underperforming. We are being run into the ground. Ange does have to take responsibility for certain aspects. And I see him in these interviews taking responsibility. But when on the eve of your game, your centre forward then goes out and you've got to go from a back four to a back three, lastminute.com, what are you supposed to do? Do you know what I mean? So I listen, and I hear the shouts on Iriola at Bournemouth. I really do. They've done well. Have they got all four of their defenders out, plus their first goalkeeper, plus their second goalkeeper?
Ricky, we've won one game in 10. We're 15th in the Premier League. We're 8 points away from bottom three. Can we keep on this podcast moaning about injuries week in, week out, game in, game out? You know, I feel. Do you know what? I've been with Ange the whole way. Do you know, I just felt like driving up here today, I thought if we lose today, I just can't see how Ange can carry on.
And I get that argument too, and I'm not going to argue against it. But you've got, I mean, every time we get one back, we lose another two, Chris.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I get all that.
I
do get all that. But then when you look at other clubs, we're not the first team to have this amount of injuries. It's happened before. Like I mentioned, you know, Bournemouth have got a very similar amount of injuries to us at the moment, and the manager adapts. The manager,
I don't know.
They do. Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. And they went to Newcastle at St James's Park and walloped them 4-1.
But they're not first-team players, though. Half of those players at Bournemouth, I would say maybe 3 or 4, in my opinion, would be starters for Bournemouth. I think it's a really poor excuse. It's a very easy way to like make and I'm not blaming you, because obviously, but like I've seen this all on Twitter, like make a correlation between the two sides. And I think like if you swapped Iriola and Ange Postecoglou and they were swapped around in this current position, I don't believe that either manager would be in a different position with their club. I think Ange would be doing well with Bournemouth. I think Iriola would be doing shocking with Spurs.
Look, let me put it another way.
We'd want Ange Postecoglou, wouldn't we? We'd be saying the same thing, wouldn't we? We want the
Bournemouth manager. Of course we would, yeah.
Luke, before I get your thoughts on the game, let me ask you this. If another manager came in today or tomorrow morning, would you feel more confident that they would get a result at Hoffenheim? Because at the moment, I'm sitting here thinking, where is our next result coming from? And when we're a football club, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, 1 win in 10, I've wanted this to work for Ange Postecoglou. But if he has been Mr. Nice, because he's even come out in the last 20 minutes or so and said, I'm not worried about the transfer window and the club are doing all they can. You need the manager to be demanding players in this window now. Everyone needs to step up. As I said, the players today, I don't feel like some of them gave their absolute all, which is really, really worrying. I don't feel like Ange Postecoglou has done a very good job today. The board, as I've mentioned, I feel like there's problems and issues throughout the whole of the club at the moment, and I don't feel comfortable with it. And I suppose the question is, if a new manager came in tomorrow, would we have more of a chance of getting a result in our next game? because this form cannot continue.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really, really tricky one because we may do only on the basis that, maybe the players, would react better to a new manager. I don't know the answer to that, right? But if you look at it as a whole, like Ange Postecoglou, you're right. He needs to be demanding those things. And that's why I believe, Levy does like him in that sense, because he's very much a yes man to a certain degree. Like, he wants new people, and he said that before. But I think he will just kind of take what he gets at this moment in time. I think he'd be more demanding maybe if he got to the summer. I don't see him lasting very long. Me personally, I'm with Ricky. Like, I think he needs more time. Like, when Mauricio Pochettino left Spurs, we talked about the rebuild that we needed to do. We talked about it. But no manager has ever got enough time to be able to do that. If Iraola was to come in, as soon as results would go bad again, the comments like on this chat would be full of people saying, we need somebody else in. We need to change the manager. It's always the manager. And I do agree with Ricky in the sense that the board have done well for Spurs, in certain senses. Look at the stadium. Look at where they've kind of moved us on to over the years of the ownership at Spurs. But where they have failed us is their poor dealings in the transfer market over and over and over again. I think like 5th highest net spend in the Premier League, yet we don't have any real quality players. They should be going out and busting their neck to go and get a top quality striker, another top quality centre back, and we're talking, world leading players that they can come in and bring to this football club. Unfortunately, I feel Ange Postecoglou will fall, short of that on the basis that he just doesn't have the tools to be able to do the job. I don't believe anybody could come in and do a better job with Spurs at the moment. I really don't. I think that the injury crisis is ridiculous. Yes, we can keep talking about it because it's still a thing. It's still consistently happening to Spurs. We've still consistently got, I would say, I don't know how many you would say first team players that are out for Spurs at the moment, maybe 6, players that would come in and start in that starting 11, and 4 of the back 5, including the goalkeeper. I don't know. I think that could a new manager come in and win at Hoffenheim? Probably. But I think that's only on the basis that, new manager bounce. I think it would fall apart after a few games.
Look, there are clearly problems though within this squad, and people could say that some of these players are being run into the ground, but I don't feel like some of these players are giving absolutely everything. Particularly today, you could say that Son needs to give a whole lot more. James Maddison, I feel like he needs to really step up. Ange Postecoglou in his embargoed press conference on Friday actually alluded to this, saying that the young players, and I think all of us have said it on social media as well and on various podcasts, that the younger players are giving absolutely everything. Where are the senior players?
Yeah, 100%. I think you're 100% right on that. I think, we look at Heung-min Son early on in the game. He was one-on-one pretty much with the goalkeeper. He still allows the defender to come back and make a challenge. When Son's playing at his full tilt, 100%, he's probably only at 70% there in my eyes. He gets the shot away and probably scores. There's all over the pitch, the players are walking. I saw in the comments today a lot of people saying Jed Spence is probably the best player on the park. I thought towards the end of the game he looked out, didn't look that interested. It looked like, he was just kind of going through the motions and knew we were going to lose the game. Like, there seems to be a real issue with Spurs from going back to when Ange first took over, and you saw we were winning the ball high up the pitch. We were winning the ball, in opposition territory. High press was coming in. The amount of opposition turnovers was ridiculously high for us. But now we're losing the ball. When we go into attacking positions, the attackers run away from the ball rather than move into space to allow the passes to come in. There's something seriously wrong, and if the players have lost faith in Ange, there is no going back for him. But if the board sack Ange Postecoglou on Monday or whenever, this evening, I don't think anything changes. I don't think there's a manager that would come in between now and the end of the season, personally, that would come and take this. So it would be Ryan Mason to the end of the season. And they aren't going to buy the players that we need anyway. So I don't think it makes a difference. You might as well just leave him till the end of the season and then make a decision.
Look, before we let Craig get a word in, I just want to ask you about, the injuries. There's been a lot said from a lot of fans saying that, some of these injuries are caused by the way that we play and, the high intensity training sessions under Ange Postecoglou. And also what I wanted to ask and get your opinion on is the fact that when we have so many players out injured, Ange Postecoglou always tries and wants to play that same way. Whereas some other managers adapt to the players that they've got, knowing that they can't play certain systems because of those players. Is that is that a fair comment?
Yeah, definitely a fair comment. I don't know if, I don't want to say the word lazy journalism, but I don't know if that's, what is happening in terms of that, high injuries because of high intensity training sessions, because that all really results from when he was at Celtic. And, there was an article that came out that said, and he talked about it, that players are getting injured, a lot of hamstring injuries and so on. If you look at Antonio Conte, in the Spurs pre-season, I think you were there, Chris, in South Korea, and the players are pretty much just, falling over on the side of the pitch because they were so tired. There wasn't a huge injury crisis then, and I would say that he was quite a hard person in terms of training. I don't know what's happening and why that's happening. That he's made some errors, right? He made an error against Chelsea where he brought Van der Ven and Romero back too soon to try and save, to try and win the game, to try and get something against a rival team, and it massively backfired on him. I think he's very, very reluctant to do anything like that now. So you probably won't see them until they're, 100% fit. Today he got it wrong. He got it 100% wrong. And I'll say what it is. He went for a back three. But the big issue is with our fan base, in the nicest respectful way I can be, people are asking for him to, saying he can't adapt, asking for him to adapt his tactics, asking for him to change. And yet he does move to a back three today and it falls apart. And now everyone's calling for him to be sacked. You can't win when you're in this position, but he is at fault for today. A back three was a terrible idea. We saw it when we played Southampton and we beat them 5-0 or scored 5 goals in the first half. When they tried to change their system for us and they changed it around after about 10 minutes. Same thing happened today. He got it wrong and he's got to hold his hands up.
I just look at the league table, Luke, and I'm worried about that. And I'm looking at the way that we have only won 1 game in our last 10. Those are the stats that I care the most about, not about how Ange plays. Because like I've said on this podcast many, many times, when it clicks for Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham, we are really, really enjoyable to watch. But I'd say these last 10 games or so, I don't think any of us have enjoyed it. 1 win in 10 is simply not good enough for a club like Spurs, no matter what injuries we've got. I think that we need to find a way to win. Craig, let's bring you in. I can't believe we're nearly half an hour in and we're just getting your thoughts on the game. But I think that this podcast is going to be like that tonight.
Yeah, it's so disappointing. And
Craig, we can't hear you at all.
oh, really? Hello? Can you hear me now?
No, I think it's going to be one of those tonight. Ricky, let's come to you instead while Craig sorts his sound out. Let's go to the starting 11 because, of course...
You know what, Chris? I was going to say before the starting 11, man. Let me jump on this injury thing. Let me just jump on this injury thing, right? As Luke was saying there, yeah, Conte, he done the 80 laps or whatever it was in searing heat in South Korea, and there was also that fitness coach. I can't remember the fitness coach who passed away. What was his name? I can't remember his name. That passed away that everybody loved, right? So those were really intense training sessions. Pochettino, our best football, and that's our best style of football as well, but known to have double sessions as well. So yes, some of the players, some of the training.
Ricky, sorry to interrupt. Yes, but Ange Postecoglou has just confirmed as well that Brennan Johnson will now be out for between 3 and 4 weeks.
So tell me we're not cursed, right? And not only Brennan, right? But Bissouma, Thursday, Friday, we heard that Bissouma and Johnson were probably going to miss today. So we get Richarlison and Moore back, and then we lose Solanke, Johnson, and Bissouma. I mean, my gosh, mate. So look, we can go. We're trying to look at all the angles and go, what's happening where? But this is a lot of this has happened within game. A lot of the injuries have happened within game. Vicario, poor back pass from Porro, ends up hurting his ankle, plays the rest of the game like a hero, but then he's out for so long. Romero out with a toe injury, then comes back and then does a correct turn and does his quad. In game, Mickey van der Ven was never supposed to play the amount of minutes that he did, but Romero's gone, and then and then run him into the ground and he gets tweaked again. Richarlison makes one pass and is out again with a quad, and then we've had to wait for him to come. Like the amount plus a virus that no other football team has had to suffer with. You know, like it's not bad to worse. This is horrendous. It's horrendous, and that's why, like, even more so, I think that these board really needed 1st of January. They should have been lining certain targets up. I have no clue why we've got to here, and in fact, it hasn't got better; it's got worse. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot on the injuries, and people will look at training, but I think that's just because we're looking for something to blame and for somewhere to go. I just don't believe that that's there. You look at Liverpool's side, are a very intense side. Even Bournemouth play intensely. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of sides that do it and have never had this amount of injuries. It is. I don't know what is on us. I don't know what hex is on us, but my gosh, it is prevalent to see. But go on, let's talk about the first 11, bro.
Right. So first 11 today: Kinski, Gray, Dragushin, Davis, Poro, Sarr, Bergvall, Spence, Kulusevski, Maddison, and Son. Subs today: Ajayi, Austin, Hardy, Lancashire, Elise, Moore, Regulon, Yang Min Hyuk, and Richarlison. Now, when you saw that starting 11 come out, Ricky, an hour and 15 before kickoff, how are you feeling? How are you actually feeling ahead of this game? Because Spurs, of course, went into this game 1 win in 9. Everyone put this down as a must-win game, a very, very important game to win. As I've mentioned already, 8 points away from the bottom 3. I think a lot of people expected Richarlison to start, having got the news last night that Dominic Solanke is out injured. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Do you know what? When I saw the lineup, I was worried. To go to a back three like that, lastminute.com, especially with Solanke out, I was like, what's going on? Part of me wanted Kulusevski up front. We've played him in the false 9 before. And I just think physical presence, he would have probably done a similar job to Solanke, or been able to adapt to that job and keep Sonny on the wing, you know. But, you know, I looked at Everton's team sheet as well. And even just looking at the team sheet, and even though they've been in terrible form and haven't scored and this, that, and the other, I looked and they just, it felt like they were all giants. It felt like they was all 6'9" up against 5'8" at Tottenham. I don't know why I felt that. It just felt like, I was just like, oh my gosh, they're gonna bully us. They're gonna, you know, they're gonna be able to aerially challenge and stuff like that. So I was worried with the change in system, and, you know, with Solanke out, up until Solanke being out, I was very confident that we was going to get a reaction and we was going to kind of go there and because this was a must-win game, I thought that everybody was going to stand up. But a lot like you've said today, Chris, and Luke have said about some of the seniors, we really needed them to stand up and fight for us a little bit. And I know they're at the end of their energy bars and stuff like that, but we really needed them to stand up and fight and to kind of get us in that game and get us over the line. And it just didn't happen. But when I saw the bench, when I saw that starting lineup and I saw the bench, that's when I knew we was in trouble, because wow, you know, I think we're the only side ever that the managers had to write sick notes to the school to get certain players on the bench to fill out a bench. I mean, and we're not just talking one player, you know. It just looks worrying, bro. And I kind of just, when I saw the lineup, I kind of felt, and with Johnson, Basuma, and Solanke out, you know, I was just like, here we go. And if it goes wrong, I knew that the wave was coming. Do you know what I mean? And it went wrong, bro.
Luke, would you like Ange Postecoglou?
Are you there? Did I freeze?
Luke, would you still like Ange Postecoglou to continue?
Have I frozen? What's happened?
No,
are you there, Chris? You're blinking. Is this a paradox?
Can you hear me okay?
Hello?
Luke, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Would you still like Ange Postecoglou to continue as Spurs manager?
Yeah, personally, I would. Yeah, I don't see any good things that come from sacking him personally. Like, you know, as I've said before, I think that, you know, sacking him is the easy option.
Can you
I just look at things like Mikel Arteta, Jurgen Klopp. I look at both of those. They struggled massively early on, but the board backed them with the players that they required to be able to make their systems work. I don't think that Arne Slot would do any different at Spurs right now. That's the issue that we've got. Looking at Brennan Johnson out as well, if the board don't come and buy some players that can come in, and it's not just to come in and cover that. We needed a winger anyway. If that doesn't happen before the end of the January transfer window, what hope do we have? That's my honest opinion. I just don't think that any manager in the world comes in right now and makes a difference with the injuries that we currently have.
Leo the Lion writes here, even your guests are getting injured. We've lost Craig. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. He might be out for the next 20 minutes. Ricky Norwood's gone, and now he's come back. Ricky, are you back with us?
I'm here, hopefully. I don't know what happened. I was talking for ages, and all I could see, Chris, was you blinking. And I was like, have we frozen? Am I here? Am I in a dream? I don't know what's happening, but I'm glad to be back. And look, Craig's back as well. Let's have it.
Craig, let's come to you if you can hear me. Let's get your thoughts on today's game. And are you behind Ange Postecoglou still? Because it's fair to say, I think most of the people in the chat are saying that they would like him gone.
Can you hear me now, everybody?
Whee!
Yeah. Do you know what? I just think I said to myself before today that if we lose this game, I can't see how his position is tenable, sadly, because me more than anybody wanted it to work with Ange, but I just don't see. I can just see the club pulling the trigger now. I know we've all been here before. We know how it goes with Tottenham. I'm in agreement in that I'm not sure what happens between now and the end of the season. I don't see how that would change anything. You might get a new manager bounce for a little while, but it's the players. The players today, just half of them look like they weren't trying as hard as you want them to. I just don't know what the choices are out there. I just think most of the team, I think you could say Kinski, Spence, Gray, I thought was okay. Apart from that, take your pick. I just didn't see any decent performances from most of them, to be honest with you. Very disappointing. It was, to go 2 down and then 3. It's just, Everton was rubbing their hands together today. It's just something has got to change. I'm just more annoyed with the board that they didn't back him. They've had 4 months. How long have we been saying it? They've had 4 months since the end of the transfer window to plan this. So on January the 1st, bang, you go in. What have they done? They've brought in a goalkeeper. What have they done apart from that? We've missed out on targets, players choosing other clubs over us. That's not unusual in a transfer window. I get that. But come on, this is your job. This is your job. You go out there and you've got to find those players and get them in quick. And said time and time again in December, we need help in the transfer window. When I've lost track of days as well. What is it? 19th, 19 days in, 1 goalkeeper. Raft of injuries. Sounds like Solanke's was just sheer bad luck. But how long can we put injuries down to just bad luck? I know we've had bad luck, but there's been a lot of hamstrings. I just think perhaps the training is too intense. Perhaps you get away with it in leagues that aren't as intense as the Premier League, like where Ange has managed before in Scotland, in Japan, in Australia. Perhaps you just can't get away with that in the Premier League. I do feel for him. I wanted it to work. But like you, Chris, I can see the club pulling the trigger. But I'll come back to it. We're just going to be having Ryan Mason for the rest of the season, and that hasn't worked out brilliantly before. I'm not sure what we're going to gain. I'm not sure how it would improve. And that's my main worry.
Let's hear from one of the senior players now. Let's hear from James Maddison.
Maddison, thanks for joining us. Tough one again. 3-0 down at half time. We did push it all the way, came back to 3-2, but it just looks like another tough afternoon for us.
Yeah, we're in a tough moment. Not too much to say, to be honest. Squad's a bit depleted, but first half was nowhere near good enough, and I think we made a good observation that it was a tough afternoon. Yeah.
But we've got 11 out today, Mellors. I know none of you want to make excuses. I understand that, but in terms of morale, we go to Arsenal, tough night, we then lose 3 players before today. I mean, what does that do to the group?
Oh, it's never ideal, but it doesn't explain the 3-0 scoreline at half-time. We've just got to be stronger and defend better and be more resilient. So yeah, with everything considered, it's a tough moment. Going through a bit of adversity. We've got to stick together and grind it out. It's the only way.
That's my last question. How do we pull ourselves out of it?
We've just got to stick together. Like I said, the fans are going to be rightly disappointed. Just got to take that criticism on the chin. All of us. They're entitled to their opinion. A few unhappy fans in the away end there, and rightly so. But you got to own up to it. You got to accept that we weren't good enough, and like I said, take that criticism on the chin. Not really too much to say. They probably don't want to hear too much either. But apart from the fact that we're going to keep going, we've got no option, and we need to be better.
Luke, let's come to you. James Maddison there, I don't think he really knew what to say. Of course, he knows that the away end were extremely disappointed. But, yeah, I get all of the injuries and I get all of these excuses. However, when you see that starting 11 that Ange Postecoglou put out against Everton, and it was Everton, you know, Everton have been struggling all season, and it's fair to say that they've been struggling for the past couple of years, you know, very, very close in going down in the last couple of years. Of course, they've just made a new managerial change as well. David Moyes come in. When you look at the starting 11, that starting 11, I don't think I'm too harsh in saying this, that starting 11 is good enough to go to Everton and get 3 points, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. I do think tactically it was wrong. You know, when I looked at that starting 11, I would have looked at having, you know, Dragoshin, Ben Davis in a, you know, 2 centre-back pairing, and how I looked at it was this. I had it as them as a centre-back pairing. I had Gray and Bergvall as our kind of holding box-to-box type midfielders, and then I had Son on the left, Decky on the right, and Maddison in a false 9. That's how I would have, you know, picked the side. If that's the players you gave me, that's how I would have rotated it round. Yeah, the players that were there are good enough to beat Everton. They're definitely blame to be had on the players for sure. Like James Maddison there, he talked about, you know, there was some unhappy fans. He was probably one of the players that didn't walk over and try and, you know, hold his hands up and get even close to the fans. You know, I think
fair play to him. He was actually the first one over, and he put his hands up to apologise. But I just want to see the talking done on the pitch, and I feel like all of us have spoken about this at length for the past couple of years. You know, we saw Son the other day come out after the Arsenal game. You know, looked like he was actually going to cry. He looked so upset. He looked very upset after today's game as well. I don't want to see all this, and I don't want these words saying sorry or whatever. We've seen it with Harry Kane. We've seen it with Hugo Lloris. We're now seeing it with Son. I just want to see the talking done on the pitch. And I feel like, you know, when I've come away from a game, whether it be home or away, and I feel like some of those players have not given it all, that's what upsets me most.
Yeah, that's the issue, isn't it? You know, when the players, you know, I often say this about supporting Spurs in general. Like, you know, if we lose a game, but the players have given everything, you can't have too many issues with it, because unfortunately, sometimes you get beaten by the better team. But when you walk away from a game where a team hasn't even, you know, turned up, you know, James Maddison, you know, I don't really like dissing out players, to be honest, but James Maddison, since the injury that he got, you know, a long time ago, hasn't been the same James Maddison. I don't know whether he's a player that plays on, you know, off the back of others. So if there are others who are kind of hyping up around the pitch, whether it's, you know, whether we're playing well or not, he seems to then also play well. But he doesn't like being dropped by the looks of it, because since he's been dropped, he also hasn't come back into the side and made an impression. He's come in European games and hasn't made an impression. I haven't seen the, you know, James Maddison since the first 10 games of the Premier League when Ange Postecoglou took over.
That's a really good point. Ricky, let's come to you on that, because we've mentioned before that we want to see the Richarlison that played for Everton. We want to see the Basuma that played for Brighton. We want to see a better version of James Maddison, don't we? Because, you know, I was having this debate inside the stadium with the guys next to me. You know, the guy next to me was a huge fan of James Maddison. And I said, apart from those 10 games, you know, his first 10 games under Postecoglou, his first 10 games indeed as a Spurs player, you know, it's been a very different James Maddison. We haven't seen the version that we want to see, because I feel like so many of us, including myself, was so excited when James Maddison signed, because we were after that lock picker for so long, you know, that replacement for Christian Eriksen. We haven't really seen the best of James Maddison, I would say. Ricky?
Who are you talking to? You talking to me, Chris?
Yes.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. The connection is really bad. So if you can hear me, let me know. But a lot of you guys are jumping in and talking slowly at one point and fast at another point. So I don't know whether it's me.
Craig, do you want to take that one?
Sorry, Chris. That was I could hardly hear you either. What was the question?
About James Maddison. Have we seen the best?
Oh, James Maddison. Yeah. Yeah, he's not done enough, in my opinion. He's not done enough for months and months. God, it's been one of those days. Really sorry, everybody. It's just one of those days. He's those first 10 games, he was brilliant, unplayable, took the game by the scruff of the neck. Exactly what we were missing since Eriksen left. Exactly. And then since that injury, it's been in fits and starts. It's been sporadic. He's just not been at the standard that we all want him to be at. And it's very disappointing. I'm sure Maddison himself, you know, he said he wants to get back into the England squad. It's not going to happen anytime soon if he's playing like that. Now, you could say he hasn't got the players around him running off the ball. I disagree with that. I think Solanke's a good foil for him. I think Kulusevski in there makes some good runs. Even Sonny on his day. He's just not taking the game by the scruff of the neck. So it's a tough one. I mean, I saw some people on X saying that they'd sell Maddison. I still think there's a player in there, but we certainly want more from him. And do we need him now? Because we are deep in trouble. I still don't think we're going to be relegated, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but I still don't think we're going to be relegated. I think there's 3 worse teams than Tottenham in there, but each relegation form, the managers have lost their jobs on a lot less than the position we're in now. So I am very concerned. It's a long road back from this at the moment, and if we suddenly got all those 11 players back, it might be a different story. But you know, we've got 11 players out, 10 players out, and most of them come into that squad and improve it, into the first team and improve it. None of us will having those players out has had on this team, but you bet a bottom dollar it's had a huge impact. But it is players like Maddison we need to step up and drag us through this, because we've got 2 big cup games coming up at the beginning of February. And if we lose both them, that's our season done, more or less.
Craig, I think you were offline at the time, but Ange has now confirmed that Brennan Johnson will be out for between 3 and 4 weeks as well. So we will be with him. Yeah. I'm so sorry for the quality of the stream, everyone. We're getting a lot of complaints. Ricky's going offline, Craig's going offline. I don't know if it's my connection. Thank God for Luke being here. He's always here. So thank you so much, Luke. Craig, is it an easy excuse? Because there's a lot of people saying about excuses, about injuries. You know, when you go back to the start of the season, some of our performances, some of our results, when we were at full strength, everything wasn't gravy then, was it?
No, it wasn't. But the injuries haven't helped. You know, we weren't purring. You've got to go back to that Leicester game on the first day of the season. All right, first game of the season, okay, you take a draw. Leicester first game back in the Premiership, so, you know, that's fine. But we've just had no momentum, we've had no consistency all season, whether we've had a full strength squad with Van der Ven and Romero together and Udogie playing and Vicario. To be honest, anybody saying about the goalkeeper, I don't think that's much of a difference there at the moment. Kinski, I thought, was good today. He saves us from it being really embarrassing, I thought. So I think the keeper's okay. He seems to have slotted in straight away fairly well. I don't think we can even say Vicario would have done any better than Kinski today. But there's holes all over that team. Obviously, different formations today. But like you said, going back, things weren't brilliant. But we were picking up points, and that's what it's all about. I can't remember the last time I was really celebrating a really good. When was the last time Spurs played brilliantly? I would say it's Southampton, but Southampton are a very poor football team.
Yeah.
So before then, when was it?
And bearing in mind that is our 1 win in 10 against Bournemouth,
Exactly.
Southampton.
Exactly, and I say you can't count it. It is a result, but just put that to one side for a minute. Before then, when was it? Because I can't think when
Man City
in the league. I'm talking.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
In the league, just we're talking about Premier League, I'll get the cups. Cups are slightly different. I know the football matches. Don't get me wrong, but I'd say in the Premier League, when was the last time? It's a while ago. So the problems have been there for a while.
Craig, are you Ange in or Ange out, or are you undecided?
I'm actually on the fence now. I mean, I've always been Ange in, and I want it to work. I desperately want it to work. And like I say, I still think you bring somebody else in, what do? I've heard Allegri's name being touted around. No thanks. Don't want him. I'm on the fence. Ange has to turn this around soon. If he's still going to be in post, he's got to turn it around soon, because the manager's got to carry the can, sadly. But like I say, I do stress, I really want it to work, but the players have got to start. They've got to start putting in shifts. And Ange says the players are out to give them their all. He did say today that they didn't, and their performance wasn't very good. Spot on.
You know what, Craig? Do you think that he went to a back three in desperation to win that game today? Because we haven't seen it, right? We haven't really seen a back three. So do you think he's gone in and gone, all right, and cool, let me adapt? We're talking about these things, right? Adapt to the squad that you've got, adapt with your tactics. Do you think that he went to a back three or stroke back five to kind of go, all right, and cool, what we're going to try and do, especially in the first half, is consolidate, be solid, put an extra defender in there, a quote-unquote extra defender, not a real defender, but you know what I mean, and kind of try and hold and be strong, and then we can adapt ourselves in the second half. And the reason that he hasn't started with Richarlison is the same reason that Luke was talking about the mistake with Romero and Mickey van der Ven against Chelsea. They can come in, they've had 2 weeks of training, all right, cool, we chuck them in, and then 5 minutes in, both of them are gone. So is that the reluctance with starting Richarlison? But do you think that he set that up in desperation of where we are, because we are in desperate times right now? Do you think he set it up that way and changed and tried to adapt and tried to go, okay, cool, let's try something else to desperately try and get those 3 points? But the fact that we had that back three, we got pulled apart more than our back four does when we've got 2 wing backs that are always up the bloody well field anyway.
Ricky,
so, do you think that he made that change to try and get us over the line there?
Ricky, what?
Yeah, in short, yeah.
Can I just answer that very quickly? In that first half, I felt like we were never going to score a goal. I felt like we were really poor in that final third. I felt like we were really poor in midfield, and I felt like we were really poor and all over the place defensively in that first half. And that looked like a team that didn't know what it was doing, and that's what was really, really worrying for me. I know we'll talk about the match incident shortly, but that first half was unacceptable for a Premier League side. And bearing in mind, this is Everton, Ricky. This is not going, with full respect, this is not a fantastic team. We've gone to Everton and we've been turned over like that in the first half. I thought it was terrible.
Yeah, but the question I'm asking is, why do you think that he done that? That's what I'm trying to get to. I'm like, why would we do that to ourselves and get pulled apart left, right, and center? And this is what I'm saying about, like, psychologically, energetically, physically. Once that first goal went in, I'm just trying to look at it in my head right now, right? And once that first goal went in, the heads and the hearts and the soul dropped and the fight dropped. And we did look like we was all over the place. But for me, that was the first time that I'd seen us look like we was all over the place. Previous games. Do you know what I mean? Like even that Gooner game where we wasn't in it the first, we didn't turn up the first half at all. But even in that Gooner game, we go 4-1, 4-1, and I see a bit of a response in that second half. Every game previous, like the Liverpool Cup game, you know, the games before that, we put in so much effort and to try and get us over the line with the same injury scenario going on and with the same issues going on. We finally get a result against, Liverpool in a cup, and it's like, oh, well, thank goodness they've got the results for all of their efforts. But then, you know, it keeps hitting us. It keeps hitting us. So that's why I'm asking you, Chris. You go and you see it. That's probably the first time I've heard you say that they look like they were all over the place and they look like they had nothing left. And also, like, if that's the first time that you've seen that this season, but also, why do you think that Ange made that decision? What do you think that he was thinking behind that decision?
I think it's setting up against Everton. I think it's setting up against a different team. I think it's the play.
Have I gone again?
Has he gone again?
Oh, I don't know what's happening.
Just carry on. Mute him.
I can hear him. It's fine.
Oh. Craig, can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
I think it's Ricky. I think we're going to sub Ricky out. We're going to bring Josh Hughes in because Ricky was only going to last the hour anyway. So I've made a sub. Josh, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on the game. Before we talk about the match instance, your thoughts on today's game.
Shit show. Absolute shit show from top to bottom until the final 10 minutes. I agree with everything you said, Chris. I'm fully on board with you. And what I would say is, and you'll recall I sent you some messages this morning, Chris, about some things that I was hearing in and around what's been going on, maybe some opinions of what the squad is thinking at this time through people that I've met, through my work. And what we saw was probably not a coincidence of what we discussed. And that was that players, it felt like it was last chance saloon, and it felt like players have been giving the manager, one more chance. And it didn't look like the players were playing for the manager today at all. It didn't. What it looked like was very similar to how Southampton played against us in that first half. In fact, in that whole game where Russell Martin got sacked just afterwards, it looked like that. And people can go new manager bounce with Everton. With respect, they lost their first game under David Moyes. So I don't think that counts. And I went on a Twitter space last night with Everton fans. It was hosted by Everton fans. And they said even with a depleted squad, even with all the injuries, they pointed out who they thought were good players in the Tottenham squad and that they were considerably better than the dross that they've watched at Everton for the last few years. So for me, I don't understand why he changed the system, and it must have been something they've not worked on in training because none of them looked like they knew what they were doing. So if they'd been working on that and planning that, you would have expected a slightly more coherent performance. They obviously changed the system, go back to basics in the second half, and we play much better, especially when Mikey Moore and Richarlison came on. But I cannot understand for the life of me how we are sat in 15th, 24 points, significantly closer to the relegation zone and probably only not in danger because of how bad the teams in the relegation zone are. Irrespective of injuries, you would think, and I'm sorry to be so negative, but if anyone can be positive after today and after what we've seen in the entirety of 2024 as well, then I wish I was you. But
Josh, sometimes people just need to say it how it is. And I tell you what, that first half was not good enough.
Not good enough.
I know we'll go through the match instance, but I felt like our defending was all over the place. And I know there was a chance at one time when a simple ball over the top, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was on the end of it. And had it have been a better touch from him, they could have scored another. I felt like I do feel like still that the scoreline flattered us, having been 3-0 down at half time. I know we got a couple of goals back in the second half, but I felt like that first half was unacceptable. It was terrible.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, more than anything, this is an Everton side. Dominic Calvert-Lewin hadn't scored in 15 games before today. I was saying in the Everton space yesterday, you know what will happen. He will score because that is Tottenham. The fact that we can predict that we were going to get rolled over today, which I did, the fact that we can predict that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to turn up against us, having not turned up for the remaining.
He's got an XG of minus 3.22.
Well, there you go. You just know that this is our club, and it only happens to us, it feels. And so where I'm at now is, and you'd be surprised to hear, I had a FaceTime with Gareth McGuinness before and after the game. And he said, you know what? I hold my hands up. I was wrong about Ange. He's got to go. And Gareth has fiercely defended Ange this whole time. But what he said to me today was the players clearly weren't playing for him. It looks beyond repair now. And now I'm asking myself, and I wanted it to work for Ange, I'm asking myself, do I really think that we can trust this guy to take us far in the Europa League? Do I really think that this is the guy that is going to help us get through that game at Anfield and possibly win at Wembley? Even though it's a cup game, I have no confidence at all. And so now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, with all the injuries, what you would expect is someone to go back to basics, be hard to beat, and say, look, this is not the way we want to play football. This is not how I believe the game needs to be played, but we've just got to dig in and get through this period. And when we get our players back, we'll go back to playing the brilliant style of football that we've been playing, and we'll pick up results our way. But this is a results-based business, and we're not picking up results. We are on course to probably have, I would not be surprised if this is Tottenham's worst ever Premier League season. And you think, what has gone wrong in all of this time to get us to this point? Because even last season, even the season before, it wasn't this bad. We've gone through a churn of managers, and you know, I'm very vocal. I cannot stand Daniel Levy. I want Levy out. But it pains me to say this because Levy wants this. Levy wants people to blame the manager and not him. But on this occasion, I really do feel like the manager is out of his depth. He's proven that. How much longer are we going to give him? How many more chances do you give him to pull a result out, to get players to play a certain way where it's not even about style of football? It's about playing to win. It's about playing with heart and passion. We knew going into this, Everton were going to be up for a fight. And if Everton made the game a fight, they would win the fight because we know what the mentality of this squad is like. We know the lack of quality that we've got when we have injuries. And that is the thing that really surprises me. So if it's down to me, I would sack him tonight and I would go and look and see, can we go and get someone till the end of the season on a short-term basis that is going to go back to basics? I'm talking a Tim Sherwood, a Harry Redknapp, someone that's going to basically go in, grab the players by their collar, bash their heads together and get these guys to just do the basics. Because that's the thing. It's all well and good when Tottenham play well, and we're brilliant under Ange when we play well. But these guys are showing game in, game out that they're incapable of doing the basics. And I can't see for the life of me how that is entirely down to the players, because these players, majority of them, have played in the Champions League or have played at the highest level. And this has never been a problem when they weren't at Spurs. And this was never a problem when they started out at Spurs. So how have we got to this point now where a player like James Maddison is as poor as he is? A player like Heung-min Son is as poor as he is? I'm genuinely, I do not know where we go from here.
Josh, interestingly and factually, all of the chants actually were about the players today and the Tottenham Hotspur board, in particular Daniel Levy. There were no negative chants about Ange Postecoglou at all. And I feel like, most of the feeling in the away end today was that Ange Postecoglou needs help with the squad, needs help with the transfer window. And I feel like a lot of people, similar to me, feel like, it's not going to work because Ange is not going to get the players that he desperately needs in this transfer window. Craig, let's come to you. I'm going to make the decision. I'm not going to go through all of the match incidents that I've written down today. I'm going to just go and focus on the goals because I feel like we're going to be here all night. I'm sat in the car park at Anfield and I want to get home at a decent hour, especially after this performance. So I do not want this podcast to last, as long as it needs to. So let's go straight in at the goal. Now, Everton did create a couple of chances in the 9th and 11th minute, but they got their first goal in the 13th minute. Do you want to talk us through this goal? Because a well-worked goal and, good work from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, good finish from him.
Yeah, exactly that. And, I hate to use the phrase Dr. Tottenham will see you now, but obviously Calvert-Lewin scores the goal. As you can see there, not brilliant press on the ball there. Calvert-Lewin just in good space, quick feet, and a great finish past Kinski. Fully deserved, you have to say. And that key moment just buoyed Everton into just doing what they did to us. Really, you could see that they got their tails up. They knew we were there for the taking. I think that's the worrying thing. They just knew that Spurs were there and they could get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As I said, Kinski saved us from it being embarrassing. Let's face it, Everton could have had a lot more goals today. But yeah, bad defending, no pressing. Just a good goal by Everton, you have to say, admittedly. But it wasn't ideal. And you could still see the writing was on the wall since they scored that goal. That's a worrying thing for me. In the past, and I'm going back a few months now, we've gone a goal down. And I can see it's coming back into the game. I just couldn't see a route back. Yeah, we got it back to 3-2, but you could see Everton were just sitting back a bit more and just trying to see the game out, which they eventually did. So you have to say, well done, Everton, for that goal. It was a well-worked goal and a great finish, but not brilliant from Tottenham.
Luke, what did you make of this? Because when you look at this picture on screen, 5 or even 6 Spurs players in defence here. And Kinski, of course. Great ball in to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and a good finish. But what did you make of us defensively today?
Yeah, like I said before the game, when I saw that Dominic Calvert-Lewin had an XG of minus 3.22, that he's bound to score against Spurs. But, that's the sad reality. Like, the issue that I have is it's really difficult in my eyes to start judging based on this performance because for some reason, and I don't know if we'll ever find out why, Ange decided to change the setup in which he's been so adamant for so long. The players, the fullbacks, for example, go from playing inverted fullbacks to obviously then being, I assume, but they would be overlapping fullbacks, in this game. Why you would completely rip up a system and change it to this, I have absolutely no clue. The defenders, you're moving Archie Gray from a left-sided centre-back to a right-sided centre-back. So it's a completely different role to him. I don't understand, and I'm not surprised that he scored. Look, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, if his injuries hadn't been, the way they were, I think he would have been a real top quality striker, even bigger than he is. Got to move to a much better club than Everton. So I don't deny, or doubt the finish from him. But, I put most of that blame on the fact that the players had no idea what they were doing today. I don't even know. I can't even answer why they were playing that system today. It doesn't make any sense.
Luke, let's stay with you. Of course, Everton took a 2-0 lead after 30 minutes in Dye. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, so seconds before this, or just after this moment of this clip, Dragusin goes to step up to challenge for the ball and then decides against it. It's not the first time I've seen him do that either. He doesn't look comfortable when players are running at him. And then once that happened, he'd lost the fight completely because Njai, just shoved him to one side, beat him for pace, and it was a great finish, to be honest. I think he was at full fault for that goal. I think he needs to be stronger. He has to either make a decision to step up or to not step up, and he was in no man's land. And as soon as he made that decision, he was out of the game.
Luke, just 6 minutes before this, Heung-min Son had a great chance to equalise, making it 1-1. Poro to Kulusevski, who crossed to Son in a great position, surely. And I don't want to dig out Heung-min Son. I'm such a big fan of Heung-min Son. But a chance like that, in such an important game to get Spurs back into it, you've got to be scoring. I know he hit the target, but it was straight at Pickford. Very, very disappointing.
Yeah, 100%. that's one of those things where Son is another one of those players, just like Maddison, who when he's, feeling happy and he's playing his best, he's unbelievable. And he hits that first time, and he scores. But when he's not playing his best or something's not going right, that can happen. And that's the only worrying factor about him being the Spurs captain and Maddison being part of the leadership group, is that you need players that aren't, going to falter because they're not very happy with how things are going. So I think it was just one of those days. I think, when that doesn't go in, you know that things aren't going to go right for Spurs.
Josh, let's come to you. I'm going to go back as well again, just before it was 2-0 in the 25th minute, ball over the top. And I mentioned this one earlier, Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the end of it. Really, really poor touch. And then Kinski obviously gathers. But were you surprised by our defending today, particularly when going to a back three, how easy it was that they just ping a ball over the top? Dominic Calvert-Lewin clear through. I tell you, I just couldn't believe my eyes watching it.
I'm never surprised at how terrible our defending is under this manager, because even when we win games, our defending is 9 times out of 10 diabolical. But yeah, when you put an extra man in there, you would hope this would shore us up a little bit. That extra man. I mean, we've been talking about this. In fact, I've heard loads of fans mention how we would be so much better if we went into a back three, and I even thought that as well. But the proof is, without Romero and Van de Ven, we're cooked. We're absolutely cooked, and I feel really bad for Archie Gray, because when I looked at the team sheet today, I was pretty elated, because I thought, oh my goodness, finally a chance to see Archie Gray playing in midfield. It wasn't to be. He got hung out to dry. This is going to be maybe controversial. I don't actually think that Radu Dragusin is a terrible defender. But when you put him in a system like this, he is a terrible defender. Because the comparison I would make is when he plays for his country and when he was playing in Serie A, he wasn't a terrible defender at all. In a more pragmatic setup, he's actually pretty useful. He's very good. But in this situation where the line was so high, they might as all have been wearing kilts. It was that far up.
Josh, I don't know whether you're aware, but shortly after that incident, the Spurs away end were actually singing "You're Not Fit to Wear the Shirt" to Radu Dragusin. And then, of course, it was just before half-time when Spurs went 3-0 down. The Spurs away end sang it to the whole team.
Yeah, I don't like that singling out of one player, because actually I think a lot of these players are being hung out to dry. I think Pedro Porro and Udogie have been very poor this season, but had they been coached in a way that didn't require them to get so high up the pitch and such a high line, maybe they wouldn't look so bad. Because even with 3 at the back, how many times in that first half, and I don't know where your view was, Chris, and how well you got to see it with the restricted view and all of that, but how many times were the back 3 chasing back all the time? And that's the thing. When you put an extra man in defence, you think you'd have that extra bit of security, but they were constantly backtracking, constantly being twisted and sort of turned. And when you've got a player like Calvert-Lewin who scores early on, having not scored for so long, and the Goodison crowd seemed to get up a little bit in that first half, there's what you get as a bare minimum is a lot of fight. And I thought the Everton players showed a lot of fight and a lot of desire today. And at every single sort of juncture, it felt like an Everton player one-to-one with the Tottenham player had more fight, up until that moment where I think you can't fault Kinski. I thought Kinski was superb. And the more I watch him, the more I think, you know what? I think you've got an amazing future. And you could not fault the fight that Richarlison showed when he came on, and Mikey Moore. And I actually I don't think Jed Spence was terrible either. I thought Jed Spence had, some dodgy moments, but on the whole, showed quite a bit of desire as well. And that is, you just think this manager's been here now for over 1.5 seasons now. And even when we're playing our usual system, most of the time they still don't know what they're doing half the time, certainly defensively. You would have thought that, because on the ball we can be pretty good. You would have thought that they would have sorted this out by now, and they would have worked out a way to efficiently defend playing this way. and it's not happening. So, and the other thing I would just say finally is people talk about injuries all the time. Look at what our form was like with Romero and Van de Ven. Still not good. Still not good enough. Even with our strongest 11, still not good enough. So when you look at the bottom 5 teams, so that's Everton, Wolves, Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester. Spurs have won 2 games against the bottom 5, Everton and Southampton. We've also lost to Everton, lost to Ipswich, drew to Leicester, drew to Wolves. I mean, really?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you put out there. You should still be better than those teams.
Yeah. Craig, let's come to you. Josh touched on this, and this is something that infuriated me during the game as well, is especially when Spurs were 2-0 down. There were some 50-50s, and you just expect that Spurs players to go in with those crunching tackles, or at least with, commitment. And I didn't feel that. And that really bothers me as a Tottenham fan when I feel like the players need to go in a lot more than they did.
Yeah, and I didn't think Saab was particularly good today in that respect as well. The players need to realise that the situation they're in, and sometimes, like you said, it doesn't seem like they actually do. You can't just turn up and go through the motions. You know, like I say, we're not in a relegation battle, but we're deep in the mire here. And if it wasn't for the cup runs, and I say cup runs, it's only really one at the moment. We've had one FA Cup victory in extra time against a National League side, and the Europa League. Well, you should be in the top 8 of that, and of course we're not at the moment.
But like Roy Keane says, Craig, you know, when you cross that white line, you go into war. This is a football game. It's a must-win game. You've got to give more. Yeah,
and it's mentality. Total mentality with these players. Josh has spoken about it before in our group. It's I'm going to use the word again. It's frustrating because you want to see the players give more. I've seen in games before when we've lost where it really does look like they care, but today was just like almost waving the white flag when they walked out there. It was just a horrible performance. It was like we'd never played together. I'm not seeing the pressing that I used to see. I'm not seeing the chasing down balls we used to see. You know, pressing together high up the pitch. It's just not happening. The fullbacks aren't even right. Different formation today. I know that, but I've just not seen it. And is that down to the fact the players are knackered? It probably is. Probably is, because Ange hasn't had much choice. Let's face it, you've had to overplay players. As I say, Spence and Gray probably the shining lights for me of the outfield players. And, you know, let's not forget, Jed Spence is not available to play on Thursday because he's not in the Europa squad. So, you know, what are we going to do there? All right, we've got Ben Davies back now, but there's question marks over Dragushin. Crikey, where are we going to be Thursday? Seriously. And, you know, I said these were 4 winnable games coming up. We had Everton, Hoffenheim, Elfsborg and Leicester, I think it is, isn't it, of those 4. And, you know, I thought get a win today that'll push us on 4 wins. But terrible start to that run of fixtures. And the fixtures, let me tell you, get horrific after those 4 games. We've got Liverpool in the Cup, Villa in the Cup. I think we've got to play City. It doesn't get any easier. And the worry is where, you know, Everton 1 more win and 1 loss from us. They're 1 point behind us, I think. It's really, really dire straits, and I'm not quite sure where we go from here.
Well, the good news is that Manchester City have just beaten Ipswich 6-0, so Ipswich haven't got any points on us today. Now, as I mentioned, we're live on YouTube, X, Facebook and Twitch. There are nearly 5,000 people watching this stream at the moment, so thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you for staying with us despite the negativity. Boston Spurs fan has just logged out, tired of the negativity. I don't know what, you know, I'm meant to do about that. I'm sorry. These are just the facts. Spurs have won 1 in 10, and the way that I saw it today, it just was not good enough. I don't know whether you want me to sit here being positive about something that is negative, but, you know, I can't do that today. I'm sorry. Luke, let's come to you. Let's talk about Everton's 3rd goal. Of course, it was just before half-time. They went 3-0 up, 3-0 at half-time. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, again, just poor from Spurs in terms of being able to, get rid of the ball. They do have some, tall players, this Everton side. You can't deny that. But I mean, if we clear the ball first of all and it doesn't get, recycled, then it doesn't happen. But I mean, it's one of those things where it doesn't rain, it pours, right? It just comes off Archie Gray's knee there, and it's an own goal. Another day of the week that goes wide and it's not 3-0. I don't know what to say really at the moment, Chris, to be honest. I don't think changing the manager this stage does anything personally. As much as some people will be happy with that, I think there's major issues with this football club. And, I've never been one to call out the board as much as a lot of people have. But I mean, that the footballing side of things needs to change because they're just the decisions aren't, they're making aren't right, personally.
Luke, just a couple of moments after Everton went 3-0 up, just before half-time, the Spurs away end, as I've mentioned already a couple of times, they sang, "You're not fit to wear the shirt." Now, the last time we heard similar to that was to Nuno Espirito Santo in the game that we lost, of course, at home against Manchester United when he brought Lucas Moura off. You don't know what you're doing. What do you make of those chants? Because that's a pretty big statement to the players.
It is definitely, and I think that's well within their rights to do so. And especially you guys that travel up and down the country, and pay excuse my language, shitload of money, to do so. They should be performing better. I don't think it's the same in the sense of when that happened to Nuno, because that was aimed directly at the manager as opposed to like the players as a whole. But if we're reading what we're reading is true, and I don't know how much of this is true, whereby a lot of people are saying that actually the board are saying that the players need to not just down tools when they don't like what's happening with the football club. That may be why the fans are now putting their frustration on the players instead of directing them at the manager. But we know what Levy's like. If the pressure gets too much for him, the manager will get the sack, and it will just be a rinse and repeat. I just don't think, and I'll keep reiterating this until I'm blue in the face, that changing the manager does anything. Personally, I've heard what Josh said. I've heard your thoughts about Tim Sherwood, mate, and
no, I'm not saying that I would necessarily get Tim Sherwood. I'm saying someone like that, an old school person. In fact,
but the players are so weak, they won't like that. Look what happened to Antonio Conte.
Someone like David Moyes would have been bloody good. Someone that's an old school manager that's not going to take any bollocks and is just going to get these players to do the basics. The reality, I understand what you're saying in terms of, not seeing what a new manager would do, but I think we need to try and find someone who can come in at least till the end of the season, because Ryan Mason, let's face it, we've seen it before. We don't need to see it again.
No.
Someone that can come in and hopefully, at best, we get a new manager bounce and that can save our season somewhat. And at best case scenario, we finish in the top half. That's where we're at. Best case scenario, we finish in the top half.
If we can get past, which is a big ask, if we can get past Liverpool, I'm 100% backing Ange Postecoglou to win the Carabao Cup, because this is a guy that has won trophy after trophy after trophy, and I don't care less where these trophies have been. This guy knows how to win a trophy, just like it was ridiculous to sack Jose Mourinho the day before a cup final, or the week before, because these, certain managers know how to win trophies. And if we can get past Liverpool and he wins that Carabao Cup, a lot of people will be a lot quieter than they are just based on the league position alone.
Let me ask you a question, all of you, actually. If we were to finish, we're 16th, 17th in the league, but we win a Carabao Cup, is that a successful season?
Sorry, we win the Carabao Cup.
Win the Carabao Cup, but we finish.
100%.
Let's say 16th.
100%. The fans want a trophy, and I think people will turn around, and pessimists will turn around and say, well, actually, we need both. We need to finish high in the league, and we need a trophy. You can't have it all, I don't think, unfortunately.
Do you know what? I'm going to step in there. I don't feel this podcast is the podcast to be talking about winning trophies after that performance today, because I don't think we're anywhere winning a trophy with these types of performances. Josh, let me come to you on the fact that the away fans sang that to the Spurs players today. You're not fit to wear the shirt. Are we going to get a reaction because of that?
You never know. You just don't know. I do not know at this point what we can do to change things. You know, we can sack the manager, we can bring someone in, right? I was throwing some random names out there, right? I'm not saying that's who we should go and get. Just someone that's, you know, potentially will go back to basics, because Ange will persist with this style of football as long as he's here. The players look shot on their feet. The players look completely sort of drained of any energy that they had. They're losing game after game. Mentally, that's not going to be good. We've got Captain Cuddles, who cries and says sorry after every single game, which I don't think helps. You're not going to change the captain halfway through a season. I'd be shocked if we did. But when I look at a player like Kulusevski, that's the type of mentality that I want to see out of players in this team. Archie Gray, Bergvall, I would argue that those players, Kinski, Jed Spence, these are players that are showing a little bit. Dom Solanke. We've got... I just don't understand how we're going to get out of this. I think we're all throwing all sorts of things, get the board out, get the manager out, get players out. I mean, we've just been rinse and repeat for the last, well, ever since Poch got sacked, which, again, I think that was big mistake number one in the long list of terrible mistakes. And now what's happening is we are at a point where this cycle has got to its lowest point. I saw a really brilliant tweet from Billy T yesterday, who said that he feels like the board is finally getting the season it deserves. But in those other years, we had Harry Kane to prevent that from happening. And that's how I feel. Yeah,
I saw that. And I think that's a very, very fair comment. Josh, you mentioned Dejan Kulusevski there. 11 minutes from time, Dejan Kulusevski pulled one back for Spurs, making it 3-1. Great finish, wasn't it?
Oh, superb. I mean, it was the one thing that put a smile on my face was that. And I mean, look at that. What's that? 5 players and the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I cannot speak highly enough about Dejan Kulusevski. For me, he should be the Tottenham captain. He's been one player that, despite everything this season, and I know he's had a couple of difficult games, but this is one player that just he's a mentality monster. He's covered more ground, and I don't know if the stats still the same, but as of a month ago, he was the player that covered the most ground in the Premier League. He's been near enough ever present. He is always the one when Son is moping around on the pitch after we've conceded. He's the one that you can visibly see gesturing to the fans, gesturing to his teammates. I don't know if you saw that today. There was one moment when that third goal went in, Kulusevski started really going mental and trying to G the players up. And he's one of the few players that I suppose this season gives you a bit of hope. So I can't speak highly enough of him. It was a brilliant finish from a brilliant player. But I'll be honest, if we're going to carry on this way, why the hell would Dejan Kulusevski want to stay at Spurs? Why would he want to stay? Why would Romero want to stay? There's a lot of players that are, and Kulusevski, the way he's playing, I'm sure there would be teams interested in him.
Luke, I know you've got to go shortly, so I'm going to come back to you. What did you make of Mikey Moore's performance today from the sub-bench?
Yeah, I thought he looked really good. He was willing to, take a man on down the line, drive a cross in. Look at his cross, for Richarlison's goal. Absolutely immense. I think he's a real talent. I think we have to be careful, how we use him and when we use him, because, the last thing you want is, for him to be overplayed at such a young age. But I think he's absolutely fantastic.
Luke, I know you've got to go to record your podcast, so good luck with that. And sorry that you've got to talk about for Tottenham for another hour and a half, I suppose. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the Spurs Chat podcast very soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Cheers, Luke. Thanks so
Bye.
much. Craig, let's come to you. Let's talk about Tottenham's second goal right at the end in the 92nd minute. Of course, Richarlison got it on his return to Goodison. Of course, he's done well for Tottenham on returns to Goodison Park. Of course, it was the last time we played a Premier League game at Goodison Park today. What did you make of Richarlison's performance today?
I thought, can you hear me okay?
No. Josh, let's come to you on that one. What did you make of Richarlison?
Yeah, good. Bit of fight, bit of desire. Thought he worked hard when he came on, and you know, it was a pretty brave finish as well because the keeper clattered him, but he was there at the right place. I mean, what a ball that was from Mikey Moore as well. You know, for me, it's just we need to keep him fit for once. We really need to keep him fit for once, especially now with Solanke out. Don't know how long he's going to be out for, but we're going to need someone to step up. And, you know, I think he's got a big few weeks coming up where we need to be putting him up top. And at least the one thing I would say about Richarlison is when he is fit, he does work hard and he does press and he does fight. So, yeah, I think it was as good as it could have been, him coming on, to be honest, and just praying that he's fit because we cannot have any more injuries.
Josh, it has been confirmed. I don't know whether you were on the stream at the time. It has been confirmed by Ange Postecoglou that Solanke will be out for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and Brennan Johnson will be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks. This is going to be a major blow to us again. Yeah, well,
it's just the story of our season. It's just every time something happens, you know, it's another injury, it's another blow, it's another one player comes back, another two go. Yeah, we've got to get through this somehow. And it's just, yeah, it feels like we've got a real opportunity because Hoffenheim have been really struggling in the Bundesliga this season. And obviously Leicester have been really crap as well. So if we can put it right the next couple of games, you know, we have got a good run of games. I think Craig said the next 4 games are favourable fixtures. If we can somehow pick ourselves up and get a little run going, then fingers crossed we can get some players back and it looks up from there. But at the minute, it does kind of feel, where are we going to get our next result from?
Craig, are you back with us?
Can you hear me now?
No.
Any better? No?
Oh my God, what a stream this has been. Honestly, I'm ending up with someone that weren't even meant to be here. Everyone else is gone. What a performance from the podcast team today. What a performance from Spurs today. Josh, you mentioned about Hoffenheim there. Let's talk about the Hoffenheim game on Thursday because, of course, Spurs will be back in Europa League action away. At the moment, Spurs are 9th in the Europa League table, 11 points from 6 games. Hoffenheim, they are in the bottom 12. They are 26th in the table out of 36 teams. They have 6 points from 6 games. They have won just 1 game out of 6 in the Europa League. That was a 2-0 win against Dynamo Kiev. In the Bundesliga, Hoffenheim have won just 1 game in their last 10, and that actually came yesterday, Saturday afternoon. Before that, they were beaten 5-0 by Bayern Munich. What have you made of Hoffenheim, Josh?
Look, I'm not going to criticise Hoffenheim for losing 5-0 to Bayern Munich. I think we know what it's like to lose to Bayern Munich with a heavy scoreline, but they've been really poor, really poor this season, and it's a great opportunity for us. But if you look at the table there, a win for them puts them in a spot where they could get a playoff. And for us, it's the difference between automatic qualification and not. So it's an absolute must win. I'm kind of, you know, the thought of Hoffenheim is actually putting a smile on my face because thank God it's not the Premier League. And, you know, as crazy as, and all the negativity that's come out of my mouth or reality, whatever you want to call it, I still, despite everything, have this part of me that will always hope and have that faith that we can maybe do something in a cup. And so it's a great opportunity to pick ourselves up. And I thought, actually, to be fair, the fight in the last 10 minutes, and I know people say, oh, well, Everton sat back. There was enough in the last 10 minutes or so. I would certainly start Moore. I would certainly start Richarlison. If we can pick ourselves up there, because they'll probably be really looking forward to this game, given how poor we've been. I think it would be a significant moment, because the league, I think it does feel like a lost cause, but we're fans, we're always going to dream, we're always going to hope that we can do something special. And the Europa League, as I've said many times on the pod, is the one that I'd want to win more than anything. So yeah, fingers crossed. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be an easy game. I don't think, we made Tamworth a difficult game, so it's definitely not going to be easy. But if we can get over the line, then that's at least a big sigh of relief, because that should, in theory, before Elfsborg, put us in a position where we'll get automatic qualification. So that's 2 games less to play and automatically through to the last 16. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. We have made another sub this evening on the Spurs Chat podcast. We've got Leo the Lion with us. Leo, how are you?
Well, I'm great. I'm good, Chris. Hi, Craig. Good to see you again. Josh, how are you, mate? Chris, I did message you.
Yeah.
Literally before the game and literally after the game, because it got to a point for me where, sometimes I use this Spurs chat as therapy, because I think, sometimes supporting Spurs gives you mental illness, and it's been tough for me, but I've now actually come to the conclusion that it has to be Ange out. It has to be, and it's not. And I know some of you might be reluctant to say so, but I'll give you my reasons why. And when I tell you that I still want this to work with Ange. I so want this project to work because of the style of play, the attacking play. I do want it to work, but there's been things that's happened throughout the course of these 18 months. It's just not just it's not just today's game. It's just past the whole of this 18 months that's kind of shown me what a lot of people were saying at the beginning. A lot of pundits, like the pundits on Sky Sports have been saying that this type of style can't be maintained. And I was thinking, oh, you guys are just talking. Ange will prove you wrong. But things like the in-game tactics, the reluctancy to adapt during games, the fact that we go to Tamworth and we can't even beat them. We didn't remember, we went into extra time, and this is Tamworth. Just goes to show that. Sorry, is my microphone a bit dodgy? Just goes to show that we don't have the ability to play well against even a lesser team like Tamworth. What chance do we have with a Premiership side? What chance do we have going into the next games? And we're seeing it. We don't have a chance. That's why we're losing all these games. 1 win in 10 is showing you where we really are in this system that Ange is playing. Regardless of the injuries that we have, regardless of all of that, yes, it's terrible, but there's a manager that can come in, like Josh was saying, and say, okay, you know what? Even though we want to play this expansive way, let's just shore up. At least let's not get beaten. At least when we lose the ball in transitions, the team is not on our back four straight away. There's certain things in games where it doesn't have to be this bad. We don't have to be 15th. Even though we don't have the players there, we don't have to be playing this poor football. We don't have to be. We could be drawing some games. We can have a couple of wins, a loss here, but this form is unacceptable. And I think that we are being glossed over by the fact that we are in the cups. I think the cup games, the fact that we beat Man City, the fact that we did Liverpool, that we're still in the FA Cup and the Carling Cup and the Europe, is glossing over the real facts that we are extremely terrible. Even when we did have the players, the most of our team back, the form was horrible, and we're forgetting that. And it has to go down to Ange. It has to boil down to Ange, because he should be able to adapt. We should be able to adapt in certain games. We can't play the expansive game. Why play the high line? Why have the inverted fullbacks when we don't have these players? These are basic things. And I know I'm making sense. And I'm not even a football manager. I mean, I'm fantastic on the Championship Manager. Don't get me wrong. Win all the tournaments. But by just looking at it, You can just see it in the first half of today's game. Within the first 5-10 minutes, I knew that it was horrible. I knew the players didn't know what they're doing. Why couldn't he change it then? Why does he have to wait till half time? These are the things that I'm talking about. So when he's there at the end of the game, he says the same thing. The injuries. We've got to stick in it. Blah blah blah. It's the same thing. And trust me, I want it to work, but I'm sorry, it's too much now. It's too much. And I don't know what you guys. I mean, I've heard what you guys are saying, but I know I had to just come in, Chris, and just say the point, because I don't know if there's a fraction of the football fans that agree with what I'm saying. I think majority probably agree with what I'm saying, that it's just too much. Anybody else can come in and do a job, and yes, we might not win all the games, but we surely won't be 15th.
A lot of people agree with what you're saying, Leo. Like I said on the previous podcast, no one's right, no one's wrong. We've all got opinions,
Right.
Whether they be different. We've all got valid opinions. And like I said at the very start, I'd be surprised if Ange Postecoglou is manager of Spurs for Thursday's game, particularly the run that we are on. Whether that's right or wrong, I'll be surprised. Leo, of course, we face Hoffenheim next in the Europa League on Thursday. How do you see this one going? Because I don't know whether you heard me give the stats that they've had one win in 10 games. That win came yesterday. Spurs have had one win in 10 games. That win was against Southampton in the Premier League at the end of 2024. How do you see this one going? Because Spurs have got to win this game if we want the automatic place in the Europa League and not playing that playoff.
Well, listen, we said the same thing against Tamworth, which we didn't win. Let's just get it straight. We didn't win that game. That team we drew 0-0, and it was an own goal and they got tired. Let's keep it a buck, right? So going into this game now, what difference is going to be? We're still going to play poor. We're playing a better team than Tamworth. Yes, it's a different competition, but I can't see Ange's not changing his tactics. We're still going to get overrun. We're still going to every time we get transitioned, the ball's going to be coming straight at the back line. It's going to be more of the same. I think, I don't know what situation is, if whether we win or not, if that's going to make a major impact on whether we qualify or not. However, I don't believe that whatever we do on the next game is going to bear any factor on whether we're improving, whether this game is going to make any significant change of how it's going to be the turning point. Do you know what I'm saying?
I agree, Leo. I said this earlier actually, because we face Hoffenheim next on Thursday, and then we face Leicester in the Premier League on Sunday.
Yeah.
And on paper, these two games should be straightforward wins for Tottenham Hotspur. And as I said earlier as well, that the team that we put out against Everton today, I felt like we had more than enough quality in that
absolutely
11 to win the game. And I feel like these two games are winnable. Now, Leicester, for instance, 14 points from 22 games. They've only won 3 all season in the Premier League against Bournemouth, Southampton and West Ham. 5 draws against Tottenham, Crystal Palace, Everton, Ipswich and Brighton. Now, the last time they won a Premier League game was on the 3rd of December against West Ham. And Ruud van Nistelrooy has a win percentage in the Premier League, 20%, just 2 wins out of 10. Spurs should be beating Leicester next weekend. Leo, what are your score predictions for these Hoffenheim and Leicester games?
Well, it's not going to be a 0-0. We're going to concede, that's for sure. I have no confidence. I really don't have any confidence, and it's sad to say. Maybe we might draw one of these games, but based on just how low we are, because you got to think about. I think Josh mentioned this earlier. The way that the players are, they're looking at the league and seeing they are in it more than we are. they see the league table, they see their form, they're on the pitch. When we concede, the heads go down. Everything about what they're doing is not working, and they've been doing this system for how many weeks, and it's not working. So there comes the point, because you're human, that you're gonna think, well, I keep running, keep doing all these things, and we're not getting the results. So is it me? Is it the manager? Is it the tactics? You start beginning to question yourself. So it doesn't matter where. I won't be surprised. It doesn't matter where who we play. Again, we played Tamworth. You guys are not understanding what I'm saying. We played Tamworth, and they played better than us. Do you not understand what I'm trying to explain to you? It's not about the opposition. It's the fact that we are so bad. The tactics are so bad. The way we play is not working. It doesn't matter who we play. That's why when we played Everton today, they looked like Barcelona. They were more hungry for there was 1 minute I knew that there was one point where I knew we were going to lose this game today, and it was against Kulusevski. And I know Kulusevski played really great, but I knew that we were going to lose the game. And it was when there was a 50-50, there was a 50-50 ball. The ball got deflected, and Kulusevski was trying to stop it from going out to get to a goal kick. But then I think Calvin Newell just literally came in last minute and kicked the ball off. So it wasn't a corner. And I said, "Oh, this is the bite that we just don't have. This is the grit to get to those split decisions are the ones that cost games. That little bit of the last challenge, to make sure that you put that foot in or make sure you do that incisive pass. Is these things that dictate whether you're going to win a game. And I can see that just on the approach of, okay, I'm just going to let this ball go off so it's a goal kick. But then Calvin Lewis comes in and prevents that. And then what happens? It doesn't become a goal kick. And then it happens all over the pitch. So my point is, like I said, it doesn't matter who we play. Hoffenheim, Hiffenhof, Bip and Poop, doesn't matter. My Sunday league team at least will go in 0-0 against this person. We didn't even have a shot on goal. This is Everton. So is it because the players, whatever it is, even if the point is this, even if it's the injuries, the fact that the tactics, the fact that Ange cannot galvanize his players is telling enough. The fact that what did he say against the Arsenal team? The Arsenal game, it's not good enough. We got to do better. It's not bad, but and then we came to a lesser team, and we even played worse. You understand what I'm saying,
Leo? Yeah, I want to get home this evening, so I'm going to ask you all a final question. Craig, how do you think we're going to get on against Hoffenheim and Leicester? Give me some score predictions, if you so wish. If you don't want to, that's fine. Just tell me what you think Ange Postecoglou will do against Hoffenheim, and whether it will be a worthwhile trip on Thursday.
Well, firstly, apologise for the audio and all the issues today. It's just been an absolute shit show from when we kicked off, really. So it is what it is. Shows that this isn't polished or anything like that. It is what it is. But Hoffenheim, I think, will be 2-2. We might squeak a win against Leicester, 1 or 2-0, or 2-1, should I say. I'm going to go 2-1. Like Leo said, we always concede. So, yeah, it's not great, is it? You need to get back on the road to home, Chris, because it's a long journey home.
Yes.
So I'll keep it short for you.
Craig, thank you so much for coming on this evening. I know we've had our issues tonight, not only on the pitch, but on this podcast. Thank you so much. And where can people find you on social media? And what are you up to at the moment?
Not up to much at the moment. Just thinking about how bad Spurs are. At Dearman9 on X, if you want to give me a follow, that'd be great. Although I probably won't be on social media much because I can't stand it when we lose. I'll just keep off it. And I just want to watch Match of the Day again one night. That's all I want. I don't ask for much in life. So
I forgot about that show.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Josh,
true.
Josh, thank you so much for filling in this evening, being subbed on. You've been a great sub. Thank you so much for coming on. I know it's not easy talking about a defeat, particularly in the fashion that it was today, but thank you so much. And where can people find you?
I've been a negative sub today. I've been a moping and miserable sub, but thanks for having me on once again. At Josh Hughes TV on Twitter. But yeah, I'm going to switch over. Football's not for me for tonight, so I'm going to go and watch the NFL instead. Got a big game coming up, so yeah, I'm going to switch off from football for the next 48 hours, I think.
Thank you, Josh. We'll speak to you soon. And
Pleasure.
Leo, thank you for being a late sub on this podcast. And
Thank you for having
your
me,
input.
Chris.
Where can people find you and what you're up to at the moment?
Well, like I said, sporting Spurs is you need therapy. So I might be just making some calls to find a therapist, because it really affects my health, my mental health. So, being a football fan, and let me just say, my son is 5. My son was 5 on Monday, and there was a point where I was thinking, do I want to bring him in to supporting Spurs? Do I want to burden him with this pain? Because I'm thinking maybe it might turn, in 5 years' time, and Spurs are on top and all the other teams are bottom. But I don't want to risk it. So I'm thinking people can find me at their nearest therapist from Monday, just trying to get my zen down, because Spurs are going to kill me. But yeah, you can find me at Leo the Lion Graham on Insta.
Thank you, Leo. And Craig, Leo, Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you to Ricky, and thank you to Luke as well. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I've just looked, 15,000 people have viewed this on YouTube so far, this stream. I'm sorry that we've had to talk about another defeat, and I'm sorry that we've had so many issues on the Spurs Chat podcast in terms of sound, in terms of the quality this evening. But it has, like Craig said, it's just been one of those days on the pitch and on this podcast. We will next be back doing a preview show on Tuesday for the Hoffenheim game. And then, of course, Craig will be hosting the Hoffenheim game. Hopefully he won't have as many issues as he has had tonight on Thursday. And hopefully we won't have had any more issues on the pitch on Thursday. And hopefully we can get 3 points in the Europa League to climb back into that top 8. Enjoy the rest of your weekend if you can, everyone. Remember, all of these podcasts are available on audio platforms as well. And we will see you on the next one. Until then, come on, you Spurs.